Hey everyone, today we are going to be discussing optimizing your health through proper gut microbiome balance with Wade Lightheart from BiOptimizers. So stay tuned and dive in deep. Everyone, that's Aaron, Mathias from Human Garage. So excited to have you all jumping on. We're going to be discussing optimizing your gut microbiome and health with Wade Lightheart from BiOptimizers. We're so excited to have you all here. We do this every single Wednesday, 5:30 p.m. Eastern Time. If you're in the Eastern persuasion, I am down in Cartagena, Colombia, broadcasting live today, and we're going to have an amazing discussion. We do this every Wednesday to dive in deep with our partners and collaborators here at Human Garage. Instead of just always promoting or pimping out a product, we wanted to go behind the scenes and meet the creators of these products. What inspired them? What got them turned on to creating this particular product in the first place? And diving deep with them, find out a bit more of who they are, why they are, and what makes them tick and what makes them feel excited. Before we dive in and join Wade Lightheart from BiOptimizers, we just got a few housekeeping things I want to get out of the way. If you have not already done so, join the Global Reset. Get your fascial maneuvers on. Ow, I almost just tripped over my own platform. That would have been amazing, actually, if I had fallen over and make this live go viral. Host falls over in his own talk. But yes, if you haven't already done so, go over to humangarage.net and sign up for the Global Reset. What better way to start off your new year than moving your body, doing the fascial maneuvers, and getting your groove on? Also, we just launched a new Instagram page, Human Garage Shop, humangarage.shop, humangarage.shop. Go follow it. Go add it to your queue. This is where we're going to also be simultaneously in the future broadcasting these discussions with our partners, and it will be also a place everything that everyone we're collaborating with will be hosted there on humangarage.shop. We're going to have discussions. Our partners and other companies are going to be able to post content there of things that we love, services and products that we love. You'll be able to go there and check those out, along with still following us here on our main page. So join the Global Reset, follow humangarage.shop, and also, one more little housekeeping thing. Join our app. What are you waiting for? You get to meet lots of great, amazing, cool people. You get to dive deeper into all this work and have a lot of fun in community. Because remember, healing, performance, changing yourself, transforming yourself does not happen alone. It happens in community. It happens with another. Everything that's happened to our nervous systems, everything that has happened in our bodies has been created in reflection or transmission with another human being, with people around us. Things we've responded to or have happened. So the best way to heal and release and transform is being able to rewire your nervous system by responding with other human beings in one-on-one or in community. So join the community. That's my little diatribe. And in the meantime, if you want to connect with me, you can follow me at pulseoflife.co or Aaron Mathias The Purpose, and join me on some adventures over there. Okay, let's see if our guest, Wade, is in the chat. Hold on one second, folks. I'm just looking through here to see if Wade has come on. So many people hop in the chat. It's amazing. I love it. Hey, Survival Moss. What's up, my friends? Hey, if you guys aren't taking Survival Moss, you better go get some right now. It's the best sea moss on the planet Earth. There we go. There's Wade. Hey. Excited for this conversation. I love Wade. He's an incredible human being. Here we go.
There we are. How are we doing today?
Really good, man.
Awesome to reconnect. Nice to see you again, Aaron.
Likewise. So wait, before we dive into anything, how is it being a father?
It's awesome. You know,
'Cause
it's yeah, it's but 3 months just a couple days ago, so it's great. And you know, this is a sidebar. This is an interesting element for anyone that's a new parent. As you know, my wife's older, and my kid, I think, has the same genetic disease or genetic condition I have. I don't have a high satiety gene, so I just eat a lot. So my kid just wants to drink milk all the time. So we had to supplement, and for ladies out there or new parents, this is a big issue because what do you get in formulas? Because if you're in the United States, for example, the formulas they have access to have a lot of seed oils, and it's not so much this, there's a nuance there. It's not the seed oil, it's the extraction process from the seed oil that causes the
yeah,
problem. So
100%.
we had to get an intermediary stuff. We got it from Europe. We had all these companies that couldn't send into the country because of regulations and everything. Um, and so we got this one time. It wasn't quite perfect, but our child had some breakouts from the formula. And I was like, he's not processing the fats here
Hmm.
in the food. And I bet it's connected to some of these suboptimal oils. I said, wonder what would happen if we give him a little bit of masszymes and a little bit of P3OM.
Wow.
So we did, and it cleared up in a day and a half. And then until we got a new formula that we made on our own that's just all perfect. And so that was awesome. And now the child's at the top of the growth curve you can get. He's like, just doubled his body weight in 3 months. He's huge. And he's glowing that nice mitochondria powered glow that, you guys are so famous for generating people when they, get their mitochondria really cooking and activating. That's where that light, shiny part comes from people
Hmm.
is largely they are producing light because they're producing energy at a high
Yeah.
level, which is mitochondrial function. So, anyways, that was a little sidebar. So that was like a new, like, you're solving the new dad crisis, but it was nice to have a new dad crisis. I don't know anything about babies. I don't know anything about all that sort of stuff. But it's like, oh wow, I have a solution. So I felt like that was like one of my first wins.
That's incredible. I mean, I can't. I actually am so stoked to enter into the world of becoming a father. So I can't wait to get to experience that. But that's amazing to do that, and you solved it through the background that you have of understanding how the body works, of understanding how the inner system works. So you were able to apply a more effective solution, or already be thinking in a ways of like, well, if we add this to the equation, add this to the equation, we can potentially produce this result.
Yeah, well, I mean, skin. So why is the cosmetic industry such a gajillion-dollar a year business? Well, there is an intuitive understanding if someone looks good. That's, for example, we have this nice lighting here that makes everything
Yeah.
shine right. If you go into the movies, they shine. So we did a bunch of video stuff, and I remember them putting the makeup on us and things like this to make us look perfect for a set
Yeah.
of videos we did on the Ultimate Nutrition course. And there's a part of me that's against all that stuff. Like, I just don't like that part. But then the other side is why do all of the public figures that we celebrate invest so much in the presentation of great looking skin? And it turns out skin is your number one. It's the largest organ in the
Yeah.
body, and it's another one element that shows if you're detoxifying.
Yes.
So with a baby, it was very illustrative, but also with us, because once your skin loses the ability to detoxify, and this happens with a lot of women, all of a sudden they say, I don't sweat, I don't perspire anymore because they've been using all these chemical agents
Mm.
in order to prevent their natural detoxification. And they've been slapping on all these other elements onto the skin to make it look better, healthier, and vibrant. Why do we want to look that way? Because it's an indication around people that we interact with as humans that that person is healthy, they're vital, and they have a high ability to procreate. Now, we've
Yes.
artificially generated the look of, but what we're talking
Yeah.
about on the human garage is what are the mechanics that you get inside that so that you are an authentic representation on your external side with your internal side. And so that's why I'm always glad to work with Gary and the team. We've had a long relationship. I remember he's coming to see him way back here in California when he lived in
Yeah.
California, and then I
Yeah.
moved here, and he left at the like literally at the same time. I was, excited I was going to spend more time with him, but here we are, and it's
Yeah.
great to be with
Well,
you guys
here we
and
are.
to see the work that you guys are doing in the world. It's awesome, and I have so many good feedback from people in their sphere of influence about the work that Human Garage is doing.
Oh, thank you very much. I find it pretty wild though, and kind of crazy because our society has fallen in many ways into a false representation of health and looking, having the glow and looking amazing, and how much time and energy is spent putting the mask on, so to speak, versus the emphasis on like being able to get to the root, which has to come from the inside.
It's simple. It's simple complicated. I think and I'm a big fan of Eric and Heather Weinstein. In fact, I took their evolutionary biology course on the Jordan Peterson Academy, which is transforming what a college education could potentially be.
Yeah,
It's awesome.
yeah,
And I
wild.
took that because I wanted to understand the model they use. And this is a great inference that I took away from. They said everything that you see in the world is an evolutionary response to push your genes as far off into the future as possible. So if this, bug has an antenna out to here, if this bird has got these type of feathers, if you got this type of breathing, this fish, like everything is an adaptive response to what gives you a better chance to procreate and put your genes
Yeah,
forward.
yeah,
So what's happened in, say, the last 100 years is the technological rate of innovation has exceeded the biological capacity to adapt. So we've gone through this, super advanced curve, and you can go to, Kurzweil's doubling of computer stuff. We got all these information elements that are coming into us that are paralyzing choice. We're exposed to a much wider audience, and there's an internal, according to Dr. Jordan Peterson, an internal biochemical representation system that, he famously we share with lobsters, which means that it's ubiquitous through millions and millions of years of evolution, which refers to our serotonin dominant system and where we are in the hierarchy, because excommunication from your tribe means that you're
mm-hmm.
lower on the hierarchy, which meant certain death. So
Mm-hmm.
we're unconsciously calibrating to see where we fit in.
Yep,
Now, with the plethora of social media information coming in and the ability to also, it's not just inputting, is our ability to put ourselves out there like we are now, that creates a disproportionate correlation with
yeah,
socialization. Therefore, I'm not comparing against the 150 people in my village, which is where we evolved to. I'm comparing myself to the millions and millions of people. And for people, particularly in the youth area that doesn't have enough experience outside of that world and lived in this world, it can be depressing and demoralizing to think that, well, they don't measure up. They're not, a superstar mathematician playing the piano and doing acting lessons and playing a sport and making millions of dollars and driving in Ferraris and Lamborghinis and hanging out with the coolest people in the world. There are some people who are doing that.
yeah,
Most never will, but there's perception is there's more people doing that than not. And so what do we do to compete? We wear certain
yeah.
clothes. We present a certain way. We get the lighting on top of it. We put the cake meditation. We've got, instead of meeting people, we got an Instagram thing. We've got a copywriter to write a lighting team. Like all of these elements are
Yes,
simply our way to try to adapt evolutionary to a suboptimal feedback system that is precognitive. This isn't,
yeah.
it's not something you can think through. We just automatically think that way, and we respond accordingly to that. And so if you don't have the awareness about that, it's really hard to manage. And so I think people are just doing what they've always done, trying to adapt to the environment that they currently live in.
Just to make it go, just so we can connect. It
Correct.
all comes back to such a simple drive. I want to
Correct.
connect.
Yeah,
I
because
want to connect.
yeah, we humans, what makes us unique there's a couple elements that makes us unique to other species on the planet. Number one, we have the longest investment in raising children than any other
Yeah.
species. What is the evolutionary opportunity there? Why would we do such a thing when you have like a turtle that just dumps, 1,000 eggs and walks off or whatever?
Peace out. There we go. Yeah.
Right. You'd think maybe volume is better, but it turns out that the advantage of that type of replication strategy means that we now developed our prefrontal cortex far greater than other species, which means we have a basic biological hardware, which we'll talk about later today, that you just can't overcome that. But it's kind of like we've got an operating system that we can install software. And that software means that humans, although we're generally pound for pound one of the weakest species on the planet. So in the idea of the survival of the fittest, which is not, it's survival of the most adaptable is actually
Yeah.
Darwin's theory. And we adapted for our weakness by working in groups, by creating social structures and connections, the use of voice and communication so that we could work in unison in order to achieve our goals, whether that was hunting or farming or creating structures of society that allows larger groups of people to get along without killing each other. This was the advent of
Yeah.
rules and the law and then systems of distribution. And then, of course, that keeps branching down into all the technological aspects that would create the modern world. Now, I'm not for or against that. I'm not saying everybody should, go back to the land and, live in a tent. I'm not saying that you have to, excellence is living at the penthouse at the top of your favorite city and
Yeah.
rocking on. And the funny part is I've done both. I've done both of those situations, and there's pros and cons to either one. It doesn't matter. It
Yeah.
still doesn't dictate what your inner world is, and your inner world actually is more important than your outer world. Because you get this right, then your outer world is now felt in a way of I'm a happy, healthy human
Yes.
that is capable of adapting to my environment and feeling good about myself wherever I am, and to extend my life and the life of my children and grandchildren stuff. Because if you're the healthier you are, the increase in your capabilities in those areas.
I love it. I love what you said there. I mean, it's so true. Is our inner world changes the reflection of the outer world no matter what. Like even right now, if I'm walking around with this scheme of like, everything kind of sucks, everything's
Right.
crappy today, then everything looks crappy. No matter even the most beautiful thing happens, I'm still kind of like, well, it's not so good as it could be. But if my disposition is in order, something perceived as bad could still happen, but I still view it in a slightly different way. I'm already
Yeah.
moving into like, oh, how could this serve me? How could this actually help me improve? Or maybe I need to change something in my life, like your whole disposition. And it unlocks no matter where you are, if you're living in a penthouse or living in the middle of the woods, you just find the beauty in it, whatever it is, even if it's in a city versus living in the woods.
Which speaks to one essential element, and that is your capacity to
Yes.
adapt to the environment and
Exactly.
challenges you're facing. And a big element of that is your physical vitality. Because if you are sick, like the goals of everybody are just, you ask people's goals. There are a lot of different things that people want, but ask a sick person, what do they want? They want their health back.
Yeah, yeah, because they can't experience anything hardly.
It is the most important element of your ability to contribute in life, your ability to feel good in life, and your ability to meet the challenges of your life. And I think one of the detriments, and it's probably not this community, I think this community on the proactive side, is that for too long we've outsourced the responsibility of our health to a bunch of bureaucratic government bodies,
Yes.
institutions, regulators, marketers that have essentially crafted a an illusionary structure, which, if you look at the United States, the life expectancy expectancy in the United States, even though it spends more money on health than any other country in the world, is like 7 years lower than Italy, right? Why?
Yeah, which is
Right?
insane.
They have a
Insane.
lower healthcare than Cuba.
Yeah.
Why? And so we have to recognize, and yet on the positive side, there's this people such as like Human Garagers and Gary's group and all, and many of the groups that I associate with. There's a breakaway group, I would say, in the 2 percentile. For whatever reason, there's always that distribution, who
Yeah.
are the
Yeah.
early innovators on the technology that allows us to live longer, stronger, better lives than ever before, extending both our quality of life and very likely the length of our life. And of course, now that economic influences are so significant in, bringing children into the world, people are doing it later and later, or, unfortunately getting squeezed out of the equation before they're ready to. Well, guess what? Increasing your vital capacity is a guarantee for the next generation and the next generation, the next generation. We've got that backwards in Western cultures,
Hmm.
and I'm glad to be part of Human Garage who's inverting that
Yes.
relationship, right? And I think that's largely in part why you guys have been so successful.
Yeah. Well, I think it's one of the biggest parts is bringing that power back to people directly themselves, letting them see that they can do it, which flips the whole model on its head. Because even it was crazy. I don't know if did you catch any of the RFK on.
I watched the entire thing today, and what? Yeah, I know. I got an idea where you're going with your questions, but go ahead.
Just seeing the arguments that happen over someone trying to present health or present a different thing is mind blowing of how those funnels of controlling something is coming from the top down. I'm
Well,
trying to.
also, I think, if you go back historically, if you look at many of the people inside of those Senate hearings that are asking all of these questions, which I would say 95% of them were completely irrelevant and
Yes.
obtuse. And
Yeah.
why is that? Well, they grew up in a world that all had all natural food, that people weren't sick to the same extent, that you could trust your government, you could make a living, buy a house, have a retirement program,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
then go do some public service and work within those institutions, do some funding from some large agri, large pharma, big whatever, military, whatever, you know, patsy up to whoever you had to, walk in line, take your pension, go home. So the system has served many of those people at every level. So for someone that's our age or younger, and I would say Gen Xers down, what world are you talking about?
Yeah. Yeah.
I never saw that world. That world didn't exist. So what we're seeing is some ageism and some paradigm blindness. And
Yes.
then in light of that, that leads to corruption.
Yeah.
So interesting enough, Bobby, I see him from time to time here at the gym. We talk, and he's every bit as authentic as he appears on camera. He's more than personable. He stops and talks to just about anybody at the gym. And I asked him, and hopefully he gets confirmed. It's obviously going to be a knife fight in there.
Yeah.
And what's really great about him, number one, the guy's in his 70s and is a model of health, even though he suffered from an extreme level of addiction and a very gregarious lifestyle, right? So the same thing that makes him the guy that could be the institute or the instigator of change is also the reason why people might attack or condemn him because of his enthusiasm to experiment robustly with all the consequences on it. But I think it's fair to say, regardless if people are a Bobby supporter or not a Bobby supporter, the current system cannot be funded by the Xers as it is,
Yeah.
and the Ys and the Zers. Right. Number two, if we look at the data, the outcomes have been depressing in nature, and the more money we spend, we get a better outcome. So what does that tell you? The system that we're using for us doesn't work, isn't sustainable, not supportable. But here's a guy that lives by the tenets that we have, that recovered his own health and overcame addiction and tragedy in his life, and is in a position to put public service forward first. And like I said, so many of those people were just asking questions that were just and they might have, and I think they really believed him or they wanted to go by that, but it really has no premise
Yeah.
because they're looking at the symptoms, not the upline cause of what happened.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree with that. And I think also there's a little bit of like the idea of, because of the way institutions and systems are entrenched in our society, like the medical fields, pharmaceuticals, so on and so forth, that there's an obligation also to maintain a status quo, that even if maybe that senator or that person doesn't agree or live their life that way, they're still like putting
Yes.
this, sticking to this story, because if the narrative breaks, well, that will flip everything on its head.
Yeah, it's and that's what happens to large ossified institutions.
Yeah.
You know, it's why Google buys young upstart companies
Yes.
that are doing something because in their institutional aspect, and I think, you know, I got my, I got my, I got my Make America Healthy Again hat here.
Nice.
Um, we're committed to that, right? And at the end of the day, it comes down to the individual's sense of responsibility
Hmm.
and the commitment to allocate a portion of their time, their energy, and their resources every single day and taking responsibility for their health every single
Uh,
day. And until people take ownership of their self as opposed to playing the blame game or
yeah.
putting it on the institute, at the end of the day, we have to take responsibility for ourselves. And if we do that, we've got a chance at health. And we might make mistakes and screw it all up. But I'd rather take that chance
Yeah.
than to outsource it to someone who probably doesn't have my interest and is going to give me some tyrannical element which happened over the last few years. And so that needed to happen
Yes.
to wake people up to wait a minute, this experiment and institutionalization has
God, yeah.
gone too far.
Yeah. 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 Oh, it's amazing, those evolutions. And the responsibility factor is probably the toughest pill for for anybody to swallow. I was listening to this lecture yesterday. Um and it was kind of funny because they were talking about, like, people enter every situation and they're like, hey, it's a 50-50. It's 50% you, 50% me, whose fault it is in a situation. And he was like, I want to look at a different model. What would happen if you just said it's 100% my fault? Whatever the outcome is, you just took complete responsibility for the whole thing. And even though, yes, the other person did do things and had activities, but if you can step into the idea, and it's not easy to do, to take that kind of responsibility, obviously, but taking on that actually puts you in a place of power to do something about it, as opposed to waiting for somebody else to change or something else to transform, which I think goes back to what you were saying about these institutions. We can wait for 20 million politicians and 20 million years for an institution to maybe change, or we can just like start owning up to, it's all me. I'm going to do something about it.
Well, yeah,
I'm going to fix me.
whatever the ratio of the relationship is, you're 100% responsible to your percentage of the agreement.
Yeah, yeah, okay, yeah.
So
I
it's
think
50, 20, 80, whatever you want to put that down. And you have to ask yourself the question, am I showing up at 100% of my own efforts? And I think if people have that brutal honesty with
yeah,
themselves, they'd say, no, you know what? There's areas that I can improve. And it's likely the areas that you're going to improve will have more impact than any other relationship that you
yeah,
have in your life. And you know, Ronald Reagan said something really powerful long, long time ago. He says, trust but verify. Enter into the relationship with full trust. And
yeah,
then as that unfolds, verify that your initial enthusiasm, your initial uh, sense of, goodwill is being met. And if it isn't, you cut the relationship or you renegotiate the miscommunication and then you re-up
yeah,
again and you trust and verify again. Maybe you give the person one or two, three strikes. I don't know, whatever your policy is.
yeah,
But as you get more and more advanced in your health journey or in any profession, your margin of error has to go down because the consequences of decisions usually extend far beyond yourself. And I know that as a company, with all the employees that we have around the world and the people working with us, and last year we served over 1 million clients. Well, guess what? The decisions I make at BiOptimizers literally influence over 1 million people a year directly.
Yeah.
There's a direct impact of that choice. And if I make a mistake, if I make an error, I have to be transparent in that error or
Yeah.
communication to rectify. I'm going to make mistakes. I'm going to have elements. I'm not perfect. I'm not some like super realized person or something. I've set an intention and a
Yeah.
direction and a goal and an
Yeah.
ambition towards that. And I continue and a commitment to constant improvement. And I'll never get it to 100%, but we're going to get as close to
Yeah.
possible as possible and keep improving. And that's what's allowed us to be around for 20 years.
Yeah. I mean, that's wild. That's even wild to think about. So directly impacting 1 million, but that impact on those million probably spends out to 10 million, 12 million, 30 million people. Because again, how many people does one person actually affect in their circles? And those choices they make, their health, their transition, it's like a monumental tidal wave.
Well, it's also, I always see it as a stewardship. So you set a bunch of goals and
Yeah.
objectives in a company, and then you have a company culture. We have a values thing that, people that come into BiOptimizers, and what are the values that we illustrate within the company, and all of our products or things are operating, and we literally communicate this every week on our team meetings,
Yeah.
and we literally go over the objectives, and we give the shout outs for the people who followed it, and we bring in all the testimonials so people can understand, even if they're working in IT or customer service, sales, whatever part, manufacturing, the lab, they all get to realize is that whatever expertise they're bringing to the entire picture, that they're making a difference, that there is an output, and that output is people living longer, living stronger, living better lives. This is awesome. And that builds a momentum, because the number one thing, for example, with Gen Zers is a great example. What is the most important aspect? To have a
Yeah.
purpose.
Yeah.
What is the
Yeah.
purpose of life? And our purpose by Optimizers, I see myself as a single cell in the human body throughout all of time. 10,000 generations before, however many thousands of generations to come. And I've been tasked with this little job in the human body as a collective, as a little cell, and I've got to do the best little cellular work I'm supposed to do.
Yeah.
And maybe I'm in charge of some small, tiny group of cell or an organ or an immune system element. I don't know
Yeah.
exactly, but I'm out here doing the best that I can. And then that has now a trickle down element to the entire human body. And so it keeps growing and getting better. So I think I'm part of the immune. I think I'm part of the immune system,
Okay.
of the human body. I don't know exactly, but I think that's what my job is, to say, hey, that's an enemy. Knock
Yeah.
those
Yeah.
guys out. Build the defense walls. Fire the guns.
Yeah.
Let's keep the bad guys away and the good guys doing their job.
I wonder what people are part of the fingernail.
Right.
Yeah. Which people
Yeah.
have noticed. So I think we brought up here about just even entering this conversation of ethics and how you even view biooptimizers. It's kind of a really beautiful segue into, for those people on here who have no idea who biooptimizers is and who you are. Can you give a little rundown of that? Like where the heck did you come from? How did you even create this incredible company? Because I think that's a cool, because we this whole entry point has been incredible. I think it'd be cool to give people a little bit of a rewind of who and what you are.
Yeah. So for those who haven't been on
Besides
board,
being this powerful
right.
cell running our immune systems.
Right, right. I grew up in a place in rural Canada, playing hockey and soccer in the summer, and football and things like that. Just everything normal kid. When I was 15 years old, my parents moved to a private resort. They were the caretakers of it, 5 miles into the woods to my nearest neighbor, 35 miles from a little village, 50 miles from a town. Basically, stripped me out of all my regular community engagements, my regular social circle. My sister was diagnosed, who was 4 years my senior, with Hodgkin's disease, a form of cancer. I watched her go through the medical model for 4 years before she died. And I got influenced by Arnold Schwarzenegger because he was like the biggest thing ever back then in the
Oh
80s.
yeah, yeah,
And, he was a superstar and, he had all
yeah,
these muscles and he was on TV and he was, movies and everything. And it was like, okay. And he's living this wonderful life. And I was like, wait a second. First, I learned with my sister's illness, she died at 22. Your health and your life aren't a guarantee, and that happened at a formative life. Second, I'm in an isolated place where I have a lot of time to think about these things.
yeah,
Third thing, I saw what I thought was an external representation of health. I changed that model later on when I saw Arnold Schwarzenegger. I was like, oh, that's the key to success. In his body, in his work, Education of a Bodybuilder, he said the three things that made him successful were hard work, self-discipline, and a positive attitude. Well, everybody I knew worked hard, but self-discipline and a positive attitude, no one had those things.
yeah.
We didn't even know what those were. So I began to explore that, went to university, studied exercise physiology, was very unimpressed with the university education system. In fact, walked out of my finals exams because I saw that it was just horrific in creating a holistic version. And then I went out, worked in every single element of the health field as a representative athlete, as a competitive athlete, inside the warehouses, inside the stores, owning my own store, becoming a personal trainer. And a number of years later, that landed me out in Vancouver. Um, Kind of at that point, I had won a bunch of national championships and I had this following in bodybuilding. Went to the Mr. Universe contest as a natural bodybuilding champion, was into Eastern meditation and philosophy, spent some time in an ashram in India, and came back, won a national title, went to the universe. And then after the universe contest, I did it as a vegetarian. I don't advocate any particular diet.
Yeah.
I share the pros and cons of all diets in this book behind me. And had a health crisis. So I'm at the pinnacle of as an aesthetic ideal, the external representation, which we talked
Yeah.
at the start, is how people like, that person with muscles and a low body fat level, they must be really healthy. Well, it turns out that's not necessarily the case. Performance, they're able to be a high performer based on the tenets of their sport. That was the tenets of the sport. If you're an endurance athlete, Lance Armstrong was winning world championships with testicle cancer.
Yeah.
So he was a high performer, but not healthy. So I realized, oh, there's more to this picture than just being how much you lift and what your body fat percentage and what your muscle mass is. There's a whole internal world. Met a doctor, Dr. Michael O'Brien, who could have been out of the cast of Cocoon, that movie back in the 80s where like all these old people were living super vibrantly and everything. So he was laid up in his 70s. He was so vibrant. I went to him, I said, dude, I did the Mr. Universe. I got everything. I gained 42 pounds of fat and water after the Mr. Universe in 11 weeks. My digestive system was a wreck. What's going on? He says, you learn to build the body from the outside in. I'll teach you to build it from the inside out. Followed his system, learned about enzymes, probiotics. No one was talking about that 20 years ago. And from that, um, I did his program, recaptured my health, recaptured my vitality, captured another title a few years later after we did 4 years of experimentation with over 15,000 clients,
Wow.
and then started writing books about it. Matt and I, of course, started a business around that time as well and started advocating for athletes to kind of avoid some of the choices I'd made that led me into challenges. And that later evolved into BiOptimizers about 7 or 8 years ago when we decided to take this message to a much broader audience because we had moved past that world. And then, a couple years ago when I turned 50, I said, okay, where is my level of performance? So I went back, won the Ironman International, went to the
Wow.
Mr. Olympia again as a natural guy on a vegetarian diet. And then after said, well, that's not good enough. Can I run a marathon? Because bodybuilders aren't supposed to run marathons. So I trained for a marathon, ran my first marathon in Vancouver in 6 months of training, and I did it in 4 hours. So why did I do that? Why, I'm not saying that to brag. What I'm saying is if you have a level of inner vitality and health,
Yeah.
number one, your age is your biological age is much lower than your physical age. Number two, that means that you have an increased capacity to do things that might be associated with people that are not your age. And you can even move into disciplines that you have no background or no history in and become wildly successful in a short period of time. So that's what I represent. I represent the brand of what we're trying to do to advocate a high level of health above and beyond regular
Yeah.
health. I'm not talking normal health. I'm talking superhuman vitality and health. Superhuman vitality. What does that mean? Enough energy to pursue whatever goal that you want, as long as you want, without compromising your health. And that, I think, also aligns if your health is right inwardly, your thinking tends to work
Mhm.
better, and your business life, your relationships tend to reflect that same level of energy, enthusiasm, and vitality. And that's what Human Garage does probably better than anybody is you reflect the level of commitment to that level of unlocking the limitations of the past, however they may have formed, and their associated
Mhm.
stories, spinning those out of the body to allow the full force of life force to transform your inner world into an outer expression.
Yeah. Amen. Amen. I love it because it's so true. I mean, it's everything is connected. Your body, how your body's doing, affects how you show up in a relationship. Because if you're always in pain or suffering, it's kind of hard to have the extra energy to be like, "Hey, I love you. Let's go do something fun." And then vice versa, they all just spiral into the other thing. So if you start at that root of at least being able to show up with good energy, you have the power to want to transform or do something different.
Correct. And I would say this, as I've evolved in my journey in this thing called life, I would say I've learned a few things about health that I didn't quite understand, and I'm going to share them with your listeners. Number one,
Yeah.
I think it's important to not see your body as the source of health, but the instrument of health. In other words, health doesn't originate internally. It exists in almost a conscious realm. When you decide that you are going to be healthy, you're taking on mind or spirit or consciousness, whatever you want to call it, and you're inviting that to come into you. And that activates your reticular activating system, which is associated with your senses. So you start to see and hear and listen to the things that could, you know, align with your inner decision. Okay. Then you have to look at, well, this instrument, for example, if I handed the greatest guitarist in the world a guitar that had a hole in it, the neck was crooked, and the strings were broken, it doesn't matter how good that guy can play.
Yeah.
The instrument isn't working. So I would say that your body is an instrument of consciousness, and the decisions that you make are going to influence the ability. So you could take that broken instrument and you could put it back together, put those strings on it, and
Yeah.
then the guy plays this great music.
Yeah.
Well, what changed? What changed is what you did or the kind of instrument you presented to the musician,
Yeah.
right? And so I would encourage people to recognize no matter how broken or screwed up, I was going to use a swear word there, that you might feel or have been for so long. I want to encourage you and reach out to you and say, you know what? Choosing health is a decision. And that decision means that you're going to have a set of behaviors and actions and thinking that you're going to have to reinforce over and over and over again. You're going to have to change what you consume, and you're going to have to change what you spend energy on and time. And if you do that consistently, you will experience health in the same level of proportion that you put into it. So you want more health,
Mm.
put more into it and put less into other things.
Yeah. 100%. It's wild though. So I have a question on that, but a question occurred to me before when you were talking about all the things that you've been through, your kind of journey and stuff like that. Underneath all that, like, 'cause you come across. I mean, even when I met you in person, you just have this energy of someone who's like really grounded and ready to like go and engage. Underneath all that, I'm super curious. What do you feel? And maybe you don't know exactly yet, but what do you feel drives all of that desire to create like this, to make this beautiful company to impact millions of people, and keeps you keeps you going? I mean, I know you're experiencing robust health and your purpose, your energy's there, but underneath it, like, what do you feel is driving that?
Well, a couple things. I would say love would be a big factor. You know,
Yeah,
I loved playing sports when I was a kid. I loved learning about health and nutrition. I loved training. That love transformed into a level of excellence where other people wanted to hear me. And then I discovered that I loved sharing these gifts and these things that I'd learned with other people even more than I loved doing them. And so then it was, can I help one person, two people, 10 people, 20 people, 100 people? And it started spiraling. And then when Matt came into my life as my business partner, he began to expand. Like, I'm probably the only person you ever met that has successful online business and didn't even own a computer. Okay, so like, what are you talking about? Like, that's how I started it because I didn't know anything about that stuff. I was into meditation,
yeah.
and I'd just come out of an ashram and stuff like, like I wasn't in any of that stuff. And so he started taking that message, that level of vitality, that level of performance and excellence that I had embodied my whole life, and spreading it out to a broader world. Second thing, I would say is an understanding of my purpose and an alignment of values with that purpose. So sometimes we understand what we want to do, but our values, because we inherit it from our
Yep.
environment or things, isn't supportive. So we keep not getting results. And the willingness to go in there and explore those things and take myself apart, to do radical experimentation, to optimize the efficiency of what I wanted to do, how I'm going about doing that, and then how I'm monitoring it to continue to improve over time. Because as you improve over time, then that is the ability to scale and your influence,
Hmm.
right? And that's kind of it, I guess.
Okay. Oh, I love it. Love. I love that you said love. I mean, it comes from a place of love, and I think I feel like anything that you approach, when it just comes from a place of en- enjoyment,
Yeah.
loving something, it changes how it shows up out there. Because you can, it's almost like when you're on a conversation with somebody and they're just doing a job and they talk about it like, hey, you should go do this, you should go do that, and you're kind of like, okay, whatever. It doesn't seems like it makes logical sense. But when someone's coming from this place of like love and joy and connection to that same activity, all of a sudden you're like, I want to go do that. I want to go try that out because it's infectious.
Right. And I'll take one other element though, because it's related to high performance, but the high performance, there's a caveat that can help the person in a low performance
Mm.
situation. So I think it was Mike Tyson said this. Yeah, it was Mike Tyson. He said, being the best is doing things that you hate like you love it.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
Right. And they asked Muhammad Ali, how many reps do you do for your abs? He goes, I don't know because I don't start counting till it hurts. When people are at the lowest level of health and vibrancy or gone through an accident chance, and I've seen some of the work that Gary's done and stuff, which is really remarkable with those people, or someone that has been, morbidly sick or challenged for a long period of time. They have to recognize that there are going to be some things that they don't want to do. They don't want to spend the money on that supplement. They don't want to get up at that time to make sure they get their exercise in. They don't want to do their routine that Gary taught them because they got these other distractions in their
Yeah, like,
life. Okay,
that's
so
hard. Yeah.
what is the key element that what makes the difference between the person that makes it versus the person that doesn't? And it comes down to the reason why. And that reason why needs a strong emotional reason. Could be for your kids. It could be for a need of being seen. It could be because you want to make a bunch of money. It could be because you want to attract the right. Like the what the why is not important as the emotional driver to the why to make you do those things that suck, because if you do them long enough and there's a big enough reason, there's almost a part of you that just, well, it just becomes routine and it doesn't suck anymore. And then
Yeah.
it's okay. And then it's kind of cool. And then it's kind of fun. And then it's like,
Yeah.
wow, this is awesome.
Yeah. Well, that reminds me of one of my favorite philosophers. He created a breath work modality called Vivation. His name is Jim Leonard. He wrote a book like the science of enjoying all your life. And he always asks this question. He asked this question of like, what if you could find, even if it's just 1% of joy in whatever it is you were doing. If you could enjoy it, even if it completely sucked, finding just a little bit of the fun in that sucking feeling, like even the joy of what that's like to experience that. So it reminds me of like finding that joy in those hard things of like, okay, I've got to go buy the supplement, but could part of you enjoy the process of figuring out how to create the money to get that supplement, or the fact of going through that, or what that feeling is? Like, it's I think it's a similar idea of finding that push, or whatever we have to do, because the payoff on the other side of those things is usually an entrance into a whole new world of looking at life,
Yeah.
of experiencing
Yeah.
life
Yeah.
on a level.
Yeah. And I think, and then breaking it down small enough that you feel like you're getting wins.
Yeah.
So one of the questions I use when I'm coaching young kids who might be struggling a little bit, I say, okay, they're down on themselves or they're whatever, and I'm like, hey, what was the win today?
Yeah.
What was the win today? And so get that brain
Yep.
looking for the win. Well, we sucked out. We got beat by 40 points in basketball. But you know what? I did kind of pull that hook shot off that went in, which I don't normally get. Okay, there's the win.
Yeah. Yeah.
Now you've
Yeah.
recycled your attention. So I think we live in the attention economy, and that is also the distraction economy. And so
Yeah.
we got to look at, well, listen, how do you not distract yourself away from the things that are important? And how do you break down your big goals into manageable goals that you can go every day, I'm getting a win, because winning builds momentum. So one of the things I use, for example, is even when I lose, I
Yeah.
win.
Yeah.
Well, people go, what does that mean? Well, no, losing was an external outcome determined by an arbitrary amount. In fact, I would say that the biggest losses in my life have spawned the greatest gains in knowledge, information, and wins. So is it really a loss? No, it looks like a loss today, but that might be the key element I need to get the big wins on the future.
Yeah. And it's an amazing thing. It's again how you view things has such a huge impact. How you respond has such a huge impact on wherever things go. Okay, this conversation is so much fun. Uh, where so if someone's ready actually to take on the responsibility, and they're suffering in their health, and they see biooptimizers, what would you say to them, or how would you direct them in approaching maybe a starting point? And obviously we're not telling you what to do, or the
Yeah,
disclaimer of that, but like,
yeah, yeah.
what would you suggest, or what would your idea be of pursuing that, and then including the use of biooptimizers itself in that journey, because we all use biooptimizers in our journey.
Yeah, a couple things. First and foremost, go download the 84-day course. I would walk a person through 84 days of a process where I allocate the 7 pillars of health that I talk about. Most are don't cost you anything.
Yeah.
Air, water, exercise, sunlight,
Yeah.
right? Mental beliefs and attitude, education, testing, and coaching. So, so you have a framework to work
Yeah.
by. Number two, find yourself a coach, somebody that can cut the learning curve between wasting a lot of time and experimentation to do this to get to the level that you want. And then at that point, start experimenting. Third thing, I think that I would encourage people is to recognize this. You know, the fundamental assumption that causes problems with people relative to diet is they assume if they put it in their mouth, the food is in their body. It's a single canal from your mouth to your butt. And inside that is a 5-stage process that leads to the conversion of what you consume into what you use as energy units or building blocks. If you don't have energy, you don't have enough energy, your conversion is suboptimal. If you are subjected to a lot of illness, your conversion is suboptimal. Okay? In other words, converting your food into energy, which we call digestion. And in the world that we live in today, I would say that most people's digestive process is dysregulated. That's because of herbicides, pesticides, fungicides, blue light, chemicals,
Yeah.
artificial this, that, the other thing, all of these elements. Now, look, I can't change all that in the world. That's too big. So people check out of it. What can I do? Going back to the Darwinian adaptive response, I can do things that give me an element of adaptability in an environment that I can't always control. And the elements to your digestive canal that makes that conversion process really good: enzymes, probiotics, hydrochloric acid. Those three
Mm.
things, right? So when people start their journey, one of the things that I know you guys advocate is like, hey, start loading up on enzymes, because enzymes and probiotics are the only elements that do work in the body. You
Mm-hmm.
have over 25,000 enzymatic reactions. Most of the energy that you use in your body is used on digestion because you don't have enough enzymes in the food, because we eat cooked food. Any cooked food, processed food, radiated food, uh, pasteurized food has destroyed all the enzymes in it.
Yep.
Every other species eats its food in a raw, live
Yep.
state. You're not doing that, and you've been doing that for years. You're spending all of your enzymatic activity to digest your food,
Yep.
not enough to run the body. Eventually, you run out of enzymes, you go bankrupt. And because one person's genetic is the liver to go, another person's genetics is the heart, another person is their brain, suboptimally meant they couldn't meet the energetic and building block requirements. Your immune system, 80% of your immune system is in your gut. You're getting sick all the time. Well, you have a probably suboptimal microbiome, acid reflux, constipation, diarrhea, gas, bloating, bad breath, crusty eyes. All of those mean poor skin. All of those means that your system is not managing the toxic load. And some of that toxic load is coming from the bad guys in your guts, like 10% good in probiotics, 10% bad, 80% opportunists. As you change your diet, that shifts. And so one of the elements, because you guys do a very good job of taking people through a really intensive process, is when you're coming from wherever you've been and you're making that change, you're going to go through an adaptive change.
Mm-hmm.
That adaptive change is oftentimes uncomfortable and not pleasant. So, what do masszymes in particular, and P through M, the most powerful proteolytic probiotic on the planet, that is the most robust species ever developed within our lab, that we've been able to demonstrate in our lab results? We got 20 PhDs and master students in a lab in Bosnia that do nonstop microbiology experiments. Those two elements, if I were to look at the workers, will transform people's capacity to adapt into the new level. It's like turbocharging your
Yeah.
body
Yeah.
with millions and millions of workers that you didn't have before, that, number one, reduce the load on your digestion. Number three, provide a resource to stimulate your system, and then also knocks out any bad guys, which could be creating internal toxins that are disrupting your brain function, your body function, your health, your immune function, all that stuff. So when people do 30, 60, 90 days on those type of things, their level of awareness and understanding of good food coming in versus bad food, their awareness of the impact of their environment, their intuitive awareness goes up dramatically. Their biological capacity goes up dramatically,
Yeah.
and correlated with their energy, their vitality, their health goes up in a correlated way. So those are the three elements. And then I would add one, things like magnesium. Most people are deficient in that. That's a really powerful product as well.
Magnesium
And
breakthrough.
yeah, magnesium breakthrough. And literally, why is that? We just don't get enough in our soils. You can't get it from your diet. If you're doing caffeine and stimulants, you can't get enough. If you're not getting the right sleep, look, there's just so many
Yeah.
disruptors. And then plus EMFs, there's good evidence to suggest that all of the electromagnetic pollution that we produce from all this technology, which I love the technology, is also creating a further drain and requirements for magnesium that makes it harder and harder. That's why so many people just respond so well to those three products.
Amazing. So a question comes on it. So if someone starts stacking those things, do they get to a point where the system starts producing those enzymes on their own, or is that something that, because of just the nature of our current environments, because of the toxic load, that even though once you finally get your energy back or your health feeling good, you still kind of stay on a bit of a maintenance,
Yeah,
or
most
how does
people.
that work? And
Yeah,
wait,
most
one,
people. Yep. Go
as you're
ahead.
answering that question, I have to adjust something really quick on my computer. So as you answer that, I'm going to step away for just a moment, okay?
Sure. Sure. Yeah. Yeah. So most people, what they're doing is they're what's the level of health that you want to have, number one. Number two, there are habits and patterns that you're going to do. And if we look at the identification element of what is food, when we define food and when we taught food and both nutrition and exercise physiology, we look at protein, carbohydrates, fats, um, phytonutrients, vitamins, and minerals. And we're using the models for that on our labels or RDA guidelines based on food from 50, 60 years ago, not current levels of food. So current level of food don't even meet those basic elements. Plus, we've got all the additives and chemicals. So enzymes in particular are an element that helps you manage the conversion of all of the elements you're consuming, as well as accelerating your ability to remove the bad things out of your body. And by using, like, when we look at food, enzymes are not considered part of the food evaluation element on a nutritional facts label. It's not in a book. You'll see two paragraphs that you need enzymes for everything, and then it's gone. That's like every nutrition book. It's like, yeah, well, how can we miss this? People didn't talk about probiotics till
Yeah.
20 years ago. But why? Well, we just assumed that you had all those robust natures. And it turns out that a lot of the things that we're doing in the world is actually limiting our ability in our microbiome. And just to give you an example, there's so much more genetic material in the bacteria in your gut than in your whole body. And from the research that we've been able to do is, for example, you had a little bit of magnesium into your diet, you would not believe the difference it affects the microbiome. Same thing with with enzymes. And so, well, if you get to a quote unquote level of health, I would say this: you are either getting healthier or you're getting sicker. And the decisions that you make on a daily basis is the speed of that acceleration or deceleration. Now, aging is an impact. I know this. I'm a former athlete.
Hmm.
I could not do at 50 what I could do at 25, but I'm probably closer to 25 than most people are at
Yeah.
50. So you want to raise the peak of your health as high as possible, as early as possible. I think that's always a good modus operandus. Like, if you're young, you want to take that to the moon. And for whatever, those early influences, I got that as a commitment. I didn't realize the equation. You need to get through life long enough to realize it, right? Take it to the moon and then chip away the the low lever things and
Yeah.
keep the high lever things and keep doing that to slow the descent, right? And I would say enzymes and probiotics coming. There are periods of time in the year where I think that a robust, heavy dosage for an extended period of time will give you the boost. Then you move to a maintenance dose. Then maybe, once either every quarter or every 6 months or every year, depending on your budget, your time, and state of health, you take another push.
Yeah.
And in those pushes, you might focus. Maybe one time you're focusing on enzymes and probiotics. Maybe you're using some other product from another company, or you're doing a certain procedure, like you go into a detoxification process, whatever. So any one of those things. But enzymes and probiotics will always accelerate your adaptability because they're the workers of the body. The faster, the more work that you want to get done, enzymes and probiotics are going to support the speed of that work. And for myself, I just never stopped. I, stay on a
Yeah.
great dosage of my rest of my life, and I always will.
That's amazing. I love it. So I'm gonna ask a little off the wall question here.
Sure.
Maybe not so off the wall. I always ask people, because we talk about product, we talk about journey, we talk about health and stuff like that. Are you any favorite song, any kind of music that you use on your journey with health? Anything that inspires you that you want to share with people to listen?
Oh man. You know, I'm constantly evolving my listening set. And so I think there's different elements at different times in your life that is relative. And I think music, memory, and emotion are deeply connected and deeply personal. Recently, I have been listening to a lot of classical music, and the reason why is I do it high level neurofeedback training. Um, I go once a year to a thing we call metamorphosis, where we're hooked up to all this brain equipment and push our brains to the thing, and then it takes months and months to adapt to the how much you push. And I found classical music supports the unification of those gains so that you have hemispherical coherence. So that's been my kick lately, you
Okay.
know. But if you talk to me at university, it was like Pink Floyd,
Yeah.
right? And
Yeah.
kind of the existentialist type of music. If you talk to me when I was a young bodybuilder, it was like hard rock and heavy metal. If you talk to me in my, when I first became successful and started, going to the party lifestyle, it was EDM music, and then, so I go through these different phases, which seem to be representative of my emotional, psychological, and environmental influences. So right now, maybe I'm getting old. I'm listening to classics on my TV here and stuff all the time. So
Yeah. I
take
find
it what it
myself
is.
listening to tons of like frequency music and really
Right.
and really chilled out like
Tones
tones.
and stuff,
Yeah.
right? Yeah.
Yeah, because I have like I turn on like some modern music or radio now, and I'm like, what's happening? Ah. Okay, so any good book recommendations? Any you're reading
Yes.
right now that you do?
Power versus Force in the entire series by Dr. Hawkins.
Oh, incredible.
The map of consciousness gives you a filter in life that I think is unequivocally one of the best things ever. Paul Chek's How to Eat, Move, and Be Healthy, I think, is one of the stalwarts books out there. Paul's a great friend of mine. He's an embodiment of what we do. He's 60s thing. Autobiography of a Yogi, if you're an Eastern meditation type of things, to kind of explore the nuances of the Eastern philosophy. I would say, some of the classics like, Think and Grow Rich. If you're concerned about the direction of the political landscape, I would say Gulag Archipelago by Alexander
Amazing.
Solzhenitsyn is a fantastic book. I would say, and any stuff by Tony Robbins like Unlimited Power, or Waken the Giant Within. He's just been interviewed by Jordan Peterson on a meta-analysis proving his theory his methodology, which was developed by Bandler and Grindler, neuro-linguistic programming. I went deep down the rabbit hole in that a long time ago. That was a great way to rewire my brain. And turns out he's much more successful than treating depression with SSRIs, both in initial response and long-term sustainability. And Jordan Peterson was the first psychologist to interview him on it. Check out that interview. So anything by Tony Robbins, I think, is really good because he teaches you how to
Yeah.
rewire your brain, right? I think that's really great. I think Rich Dad, Poor Dad by Robert Kiyosaki, to understand the quadrant as a concept and the way he illustrates that as a story of how to manage your finances or how to think in the different terms of the languaging inside of it. All of those books are great. I mean, the science of being rich, the science of being healthy, the science of being great. Those are great books by Wallace D. Wattles. Of course, Think and Grow Rich. I think that was a foundational classic. Of course, all of the religious classics, any one of those, I think, to find your spiritual philosophy. So explore until you find something that resonates with you, because at the end of the day, we're spiritual
Yes.
beings. And I think if you have something that you can live in, an essential truth that gives you relief about the existential crisis of life and death, then I think it's great. And then, of course, if you're just looking for some foundation rules, Jordan Peterson's 12 Rules for Life is a great way to get yourself out of a suboptimal phase and apply them daily. I think those are some of, but I'm a big book reader. I mean, I'm always
Yeah.
reading books. So I could go on for like 10
Yeah.
years on,
Yeah.
what
I
book
love
you
it. I
needed
love
for
it.
what.
Kindred Spirit. Hawkins' work is incredible. Each
Yeah,
each one
I,
of those
I went
books.
to see him and he was amazing.
You actually got to
Oh
go see him.
yeah, oh yeah,
Oh
yeah,
man.
yeah. And by the way, on his website, Veritas nutritionpub.com, you can actually download for $20 a month. You can get every single lecture he ever did.
I did not know that.
They are so potent and so
Wow.
powerful. You can watch for about 30 to 40 minutes and then you'll pass out because the overload of the
The
energetic
robot.
download, you got to reboot the system.
I love
Yeah.
it. I love it.
Yes. Yeah.
Man, this has been an incredible conversation. So for everybody out there, next steps, because you have your book as well to
Yes.
advise.
I should have mentioned mine. Boy, that was terrible. I didn't even do
Yeah, dude,
a
come on,
selfish.
you got
So
this.
I wrote this book called The Ultimate Nutrition Bible. Matt and I wrote it. Matt is he's a keto guy. I'm a vegetarian. We decided that we would write a book on nutrition together. People go, well, how did you do that? Well, over the course of our lives, we've literally, both of us, experimented with the whole range of dietary possibilities. And we've seen success in a variety of different areas. And it's like, why is some person successful in this and not successful in that? So what we attempted to do is write the most unbiased book on health and nutrition ever, to illustrate the pros and cons of every element, to illustrate different types of goals that people will have. Both of us were personal trainers for, many years, and to be able to create a pathway using modern technology and testing to craft the perfect program for you and to seek out the right professionals at the right time, depending on where you are with your journey. So it's essentially a reference guide. It's a massive book. It's like over 500 pages. It's got over 1,000 peer-reviewed journals that a PhD went and vetted to make sure that they were supportive of good scientific evidence. But the element, you only need it, maybe 150 pages would be what an individual would need. They're like, I'm not interested in that, not interested in that. But later as you go along, it might come back as a reference guide of like, oh, what did those guys say about that? And who did they
Yeah,
refer to, or what tests they did? It's all in that book. And
that.
we do now have a certification course coming out in regards to that as well,
Oh,
so that
incredible.
people can get it for continuing course credits. You can access it at BiOptimizers.com, find out more.
That is incredible. And one thing about like your version of probiotics, enzymes, and even your supplements in general, the magnesium breakthrough, your mushrooms blend is, and this is one thing I appreciate so much, because still so many supplement companies out there who don't do this, is you guys massively research and dive deep into the highest quality, highest potency combinations and ingredients, and you go out of your way, actually, because there is still so people see supplements out there. They're like, oh, I heard taking a probiotic is great, or I heard taking some chaga mushrooms or some reishi
Correct.
is great, and then they go see a product that's on the store shelf. Oh, this contains that. This must be something really good, and they're not really getting anything from it because of where it was sourced from, or the quantities, or the quantity. And you guys go bonkers, actually, in a good way, on how you put things together.
Yeah, we're one of the only nutrition companies in the world that works directly with a microbiology lab. Like I said, we had 20 PhDs and master students with the Birch International University. We brought in the equipment to test for genotoxicity, cytotoxicity, to do the InfoGest test, which is the gold standard of digestibility. We got a special microscope that actually can demonstrate if it goes in the cells. We understand what the cells produce. We understand what the bacteria culture is. We're able to go to the next level beyond a lab assay in combination. We have an AI program that allows us to run combination experiments to see what would go into something. The testing, we would start with multiple different versions of a formula and keep testing them against each other. And then even when we settle on a formula, we keep testing
Yeah.
that as we come to new levels of awareness. We have a specialized team that scours the world for the highest quality raws that you can get, and we back test them both in a third party testing and in our lab to make sure they meet the rigorous standards that literally no other company has. There's not even a format to determine what the hell we're doing for testing, because it's above and beyond what anybody else can do in order to
Yeah.
produce the products that we're going to do. Our goal is to produce the most effective products in every single class, and to teach people how to use them. And number three, to get them in a timely fashion. And four, we give people their money back if we don't fulfill those three things in a level that makes people satisfied, not just satisfied, but over the moon with the results.
Yeah.
And that's allowed us to build a great brand, great relationships. We're Inc. 5000 in the last 3 years as one of the fastest growing companies in America. And we've got a team in over 29 countries around the world that is working on this exponentially. And we're just so pumped and delighted to be working with the Human Garage and your ginormous family around the world and all the goodness that you're doing. So I love you guys, and we'll do anything we can to support your movement because you do the things that we can't do. And that's an amazing element.
Yeah, and you're filling in a massive gap of what we can't do, which is
Correct.
incredible. And it's like that synergy of like-minded individuals re-empowering people. Well, maybe not re-empowering because people already have the power inside. We're just assisting and reminding you that you can release it, get into the world, and helping you get more energy to do it. Um, So, any last words to everybody out there on where they should go, what they should do, a beginning place to start, and then I want to do what's sync out with you. We usually do this sync up when we start things. I like to do it at the end just to kind of wind everything down. So, give everyone some last words.
Yeah, go to BiOptimizers.com, put in the Human Garage, get the 10% discount. I think you guys got a bunch of links in the show notes. Thank you so much for that. I appreciate it. There's bigger discounts. You can buy higher volumes. Let us know if you have any questions, concerns,
Yes,
elements. Our customer service is available. We're on all the
incredible.
social media channels. We have the Awesome Health Podcast. We got the course, 84 days. That's free for anybody inside of that. It's our gift to people so that they can get inside and make the right decisions for themselves, understand what are the important elements, how to get rid of the waste in both their cognitive and physical worlds. And yeah, that's pretty much it. That's us at BiOptimizers, and we're happy to do it. And we're going to continue doing it as long as possible. We've got a lot of great things planned for the coming year. The company's growing and expanding, and you're only going to see more and more of us everywhere. So get on the train. And so importantly, my message to the individual is you have far more power than you have problems. In fact, your problems are an invitation from God to discover the power within you to overcome them. He never gives you more. So you might as well get the most
I
out
hope
of
you will.
life while you're here.
Okay. Yeah. And wait, can you just repeat? You muted, I think, or your voice got lost there for part of the sentence of what you said. Right as you said, God cut out for a second, came back on.
Oh yeah, God never gives you. He'll give you a problem as an invitation to find the power within you to overcome it. And the bottom line is you have more power than you have problems. You just got to go in there and discover it. So knock it out of the park, folks. You can do it. Take those invitations, RSVP God, and say, you know what? I'm up for the task because I got the power.
Amazing. I love it. Ladies and gentlemen, we've been speaking to Wade Lightheart from BiOptimizers. Go grab your Masszymes P3O and join us if you haven't already. Little housekeeping things. Our global reset is February 1st. Go to our website, sign up, do it. Join our community. It's growing. You can have a lot of great conversations like this. And follow our new account, humangarage.shop. This is a space we're creating for all of the wonderful people like Wade that we collaborate with and we do great things with, to give even more space to have conversations like this, for them to put content, for them to keep sharing their mission, their drives, what they're working on, because we want to help bring these things to the world in a bigger and bigger way and re-empower to help a billion people. And that's our mission and our goal. If you want to hang out with me personally and follow me, go to pulseoflife.co or Aaron Mathias The Purpose. Open to questions. Again, wait, can people just also DM you guys with questions if they have about products, or is it better just to go to the website and DM there?
Go to the website is the best landlord
Okay,
because I get thousands of requests a day and we filter them out. And I do answer all the questions, but we run the filters through our customer service because I probably answered your question that you have already.
sweet. Awesome. So, guys, as we wrap all this up, we're going to do a sync out. Now, typically at Human Garage, we do this at the start of a meeting. We sit down to break bread together, when we meet new people, and we're going to get into a group discussion. It's called syncing up. But I also like to do it at the very end. Actually, it's kind of fun because it just brings a nice calm piece, and then we'll say adios. So if you're driving, PS, do not do this because you're going to have to let go of the wheel. So don't do it. You're going to take your right hand and put it underneath your left armpit, left hand on top of your right shoulder, and you're going to pull your torso off to one side. And if you're standing, you can cross left leg over your right or right over your left, whichever you prefer. If you're sitting, do the same thing. You're going to rotate your shoulders one way, and your shoulders are going to go to the left, your head's going to look to the right, and we're going to take 6 breaths together. I personally prefer nasal breathing purely, in through my nose, out through my nose for all the great benefits that that produces. But if you feel more comfortable, you can do nose into the nose, out through the mouth. Or if your nose is all plugged up, it's a great fascial maneuver you can do to release that. But if it's plugged up right now, do your mouth. So let's do it. Let's twist and take 6 breaths, and we'll say adios. Breath number 1. Breath number 2. Breath 3. Breath 4. Breath 5. Breath 6. And then come back. My phone was falling off. Come back. I feel super relaxed. And Wade, thank you so much for coming and hanging out. I'm looking forward to talking to you more. We're going to create a whole cycle so we can come back on, because I'd love to, next time we talk some really cool philosophy and perspective. It'd be cool to dive even more into the breakdown of what separates all the products from things on the market and things like that. This conversation has been incredible. Thank you so much.
Thank you so
And
much.
dude, I also want to hear more father stories. I love.
Right.
All right, everyone. We'll catch you all later. Join our community, humangarage.net. Go get some BiOptimizers, and we'll see you all soon. And this will be reposted. So if you're just tuning in now at the end, this will be reposted within an hour or two, and you'll be able to go back and watch the whole conversation, all the pertinent links, where to go, what to do, Human Garage code to use, all the goodies will be posted below it. So check it out a little bit later if you're just tuning in now. Adios, everyone. Good night.
Adios.